Hi guys, welcome to another Kimikaze creation video. Just thought I'd give you a little bit more of an update on the 202 build, and I'll take you down to the workshop where it's being built in a little while and show you the motor and where it's up to. Not a huge amount of progress at this stage, but we're starting to get that crank into the block. Now, because I bought the Swan Racing timing cover, I had to modify the crank. Because of the hub that holds the harmonic balancer, it actually has 180 degree opposite keyways for a little bit more stability of the harmonic balancer. And we've had to set the crank up. There's some pictures just here, and machine that other keyway in. So we had to set the crank up on a milling machine, grab it in a dividing head, and set that keyway at exactly 180 degrees opposite to the other one. We also drilled out the center hole in the crank because the harmonic balancer actually bolts on for that unit as well. So I'll show you that in a second. And since taking it down there, Dave's put the crank into the motor, and we're just getting it because it's a blue crank, and it has the carbon seal or the fiber rope seal. And as Dave said, once those seals were actually asbestos, and they were very good at sealing, and also had good anti-friction properties. Now, the new rope seals obviously don't have the asbestos in them, and as Dave said, they're renowned for leaking, but they also take a fair bit to fit. The 173 I built was a neoprene seal. Not a problem, you know, straight in, crank rotated easily. But with the carbon seal, he got me to try to move it, and he's only got the bottom section in at the moment, getting that to bed in first, and then he'll put the top section in, get it to bed in, and we've got to get it to the point where the crank will rotate easily in the block. So I'm sure you guys out there, if you've built one with the rope seal, you've probably experienced that of recent, and that's the reason for it, that they no longer have the asbestos, and they're probably not quite as good as they were. But anyway, Dave will sort that out. He's got a lot of experience with that sort of thing. I've also made the decision to buy a high torque starter motor. They look just the same as the original. But I like a car, one, that stays cool. So I've had good cooling systems on this car, which I'll implement with the new motor. And the other thing is I like them to start. So I usually run big batteries, and having that high torque starter motor will make a roll over pretty quick. I bought some tough engine mounts because I saw another video or another picture of an engine being built very similar to mine, very similar specs, and he had the tough engine mounts, and I'm basically replacing everything on the 173 that's sitting in that at the moment. Like, the engine's still sitting in there, so I'm getting everything so I can basically mount the motor and sit it straight in, and that 173 I'll strip back down and rebuild it as well, as because it's a spare motor. So that's what I bought so far, and I'll take you down the workshop and we'll have a look at that crank. Here we are down at the engine building facility in the local town, and just having a look at my motor starting to go together. We've just got the crank in, bedding in the rear main, so the crank will turn over nicely and we'll be able to start assembling the motor. Machined off the main locating areas for the side covers so that those Crower lifters, link bar lifters, will fit in there. And she's just getting set up and ready to go. Over on the bench, we've got a heap of parts, all the stuff we talked about in the last video, getting ready to go in. These spool H-beam rods are just absolutely magic. Great looking part for anyone that wants to use these. Fairly expensive. I think the whole kit was about $2.5 grand when I bought it. Over here we've got the Ross Racing pistons with the gudgeons in them, ready to go. So we just need a few bearings, get that crank sorted out, and we can start putting those pistons together and getting it in. This is the Yellow Terra. I don't think I showed this before, maybe a picture of it, but the Yellow Terra flywheel. It is actually a Lyton flywheel, but it's billet steel, machined out of one piece. Nice bit of gear, a little bit lighter than the standard one. We've got our cam over there that I showed you before, and some of the pretty stuff. The covers, going for a similar theme to the old motor, black and red in the engine bay, should look nice. But I've put a lot higher cover on it this time, not that the rockers were hitting, but I just thought I'd go with this nice cast cover and side plates to fit into the engine. So guys, that's where we're at this point in time. I have also purchased a set of valve springs. Funny story to that. If you've been watching these videos, you would have seen I bought a pretty lumpy cam originally to go with the flat tappets as I was going to replace them. But I decided to go with the roller cam, and that's been a whole nother rabbit hole going down that thing, learning and getting different cams, different lifters, the link bar lifters. Yeah, it's changed a lot of the geometry in the motor. But anyway, I chased up Crow Cams, sent them all the specs of my head, the specs of the cam that Phil at Shaw Cams made for me, and asked their advice on what sort of valve spring would work. Shaw Cams, if you have a look at that data in the previous video, suggested this beehive spring, but the install height of that spring was about 1.8 inches, and the specs for my my head, I think, are about 1.65 inches for the install height of the spring. Now the cam, I think, has got about 50 thou lift, and it's got quite a bit of lift, and the spring that they've suggested is again a double spring, so an inner and an outer. If you have a look on the 202 Supercharger site, you'll see Broderick's motor that he's built, and he suggested when he run his engine in, he left that inner spring out to run the engine in, so you're not getting that same wear rate on the cam and on the lifters, which seems to be wearing a lot of them out. But with my roller cam, shouldn't have that problem. Dave did have some solution to put in the oil that reduces the risk of friction and wearing parts, which we will run in there. It's a good run-in solution. I think it's sulfur or something like that that needs to be in the oil, and this is an additive that puts that in. So we'll run that anyway, but having the roller cam, we've no longer got a friction point between the lifters and the cam, so it should be all good for that. So anyway, guys, just thought I'd give you a little bit of an update. I know it's been a long time coming, getting this engine built. I went down and had a look at the drawer that I've been taking parts down for the last 12 months. I had a look at it, and it's been 18 months since I took the block down to Dave. And I've been just buying parts and taking them down to him ever since. And it's a massive drawer full of parts. There's a lot of money sitting in that drawer, and it's going to be very good to clear them out and start to get them into this motor. So it will happen very fast. I visited him just yesterday, and he was going to work all weekend trying to get other work out that's in front of it. Mine being a project car, hasn't really been on the priority list, and I haven't pushed him. but we're going to get there very soon. So watch this space. As soon as I get that rolling stock in, we start to get it built up a bit more than where it is at the moment. I'll show you that as well. Anyway, guys, bit of an update. Take care and keep watching.